This episode of the SwitchCast is produced by Dr. Panda, our honored patron and Switch Knight PhD.
Hi everybody, I'm Casey.
And I'm JV.
And this is the SwitchCast, the podcast for the Switch enthusiast who gets semi-obscure Simpsons jokes. And we have a great show for you this week. I mean, look, if you've listened to this show before, you know we're going to have a great episode. We have a great episode 99% of the time. There was just that one time back, you know.
That one time. My gosh. I regret that one time.
That one But every other show has been amazing, and we hope to keep it going and keep the chain going up this week with a lot of stuff. Not only do we have a few games to talk about and some hardware, we got E3 coming up, and already some surprise announcements have proven some of our predictions from last episode right, if not time-wise a little off, and already proven us wrong on a few issues, so it'll be funny to go over a little that.
Absolutely. It's good that we get this out of the way now. And once E3 actually comes in, then we'll be able to get our full-fledged bingo card going.
Right. We also have a ton of news to go over. It was just one of those weeks where we post the podcast and like literally an hour later, just bombs of information and amazing stuff drop that I would have loved to have even edited in some kind of little like, hey, Casey from the future here, and this just happened that changes the world of Switch. But alas, we had to wait a whole week to talk about those things, and we will talk about them in the news today. Regarding E3, actually, you're not going to be here for our E3 midway through episode next week, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm actually traveling to Florida next week, around the Orlando area, so not going to be available to record, but I will try my best to be in the Discord chat, hyping up E3 with everyone else in real time.
What are you going to Florida for? You retiring or something?
Feels like it. Every single time I go there, it's just retirement central or, big theme park stuff. It feels like it's vacation.
You're a big Disney World kind of guy, all right? You go there a lot, don't you?
Okay, so I don't really go to theme parks when I was a kid, and now that I'm an adult, I can just make up for lost time. I think that's what I'm doing. Speaking of which, it's completely unrelated and not something planned. They're going to be announcing the new Nintendo theme park in Universal Orlando soon.
That's right. We saw some pictures of what it looks like. That's pretty insane. I mean, I'm actually part of me surprised that it's happening. Part of me surprised that this has not happened like 10 years ago.
Exactly. It just makes sense for Nintendo to have its own theme park. Because so many of its games are almost set in theme park worlds. I think it's a really good fit.
And they got the mascot characters. Like, you have such a cast of characters that fit. They look like mascot costumes already.
Yeah, exactly. And considering just how well they adapted the Harry Potter universe into a theme park, really gives me hope that the Universal Nintendo theme park is going to kick a lot of butt.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that means I'm not going to be able to record the podcast next week, but that doesn't mean we're not going to have E3 content for you guys.
And it doesn't mean I'm going to be here by myself. I've already secured a super secret baritone voice to fill in for JV, and we'll leave that little mystery in the air until then.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be in good hands, and I will share my own opinions the coming week after that.
My Twitter is going to be melting from how much I'm probably going to be, live tweeting the entire thing. I mean, last year, and that was just, I was only watching it mostly, I think last year was for Pokemon Go, and we didn't even know anything about the Switch at that point. They just were, it was 3DS stuff, and I was still doing the Pocket Players, but I was busy all day watching, playing, watching live plays of stuff and just tweeting away. And I'm at least glad we have a chat room of people that are really cool to like discuss it with in real time as it's going on.
Exactly, and honestly, we're going to be active while E3 is going on, so
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot to discuss in real time while all the commotion is happening.
I will say, if any of you do love that, definitely don't forget about the Discord chat, because I know they always have that little chat bar at the side of like the Nintendo streams on YouTube, but it's kind of useless since it's so spammy. It's just like a stream of 1,001 voices all just going too fast to read. So it's kind of pointless at that point.
Right.
Come to the Discord where it's a manageable number, under 100 people, but still all active and intelligent, and we actually have something to say to each other.
Right, exactly. It's and so far the community has been amazing and friendly and heartwarming, and we're very quick to cut down any sort of activity that's remotely trolly. So we've been really great.
You've been really great, people. That's what he means. Not like we, as like JV and KC. We are great.
Yes,
aren't we great, JV?
Awesome. We're okay.
We're pretty good.
7.8 out of 10. Too much water.
But we have, we should just go right into what we've been playing this week, because we have a few things before the main topic of discussion, because we do have a lot to talk about with the pre-E3 announcements that have been going crazy already.
Yeah, pre-3 is insane.
So I guess the first thing is we had a little bit of a follow-up this week, because we had the second round of the ARMS Test Punch going on this weekend, or last weekend. And it was mostly the same thing, but they switched up a couple things. One, they added Twintel to the mix, and they replaced volleyball with the basketball game, right?
Hoops, yeah, the hoops mode.
Hoops. Right. And they also threw in that, what is that skull thing. They threw in the headlock mode, and so these all added a little bit something different, but it sounded like when I was talking to you actually didn't play too many of the other modes, or you just maybe, or did you skip them, or you just got lucky and just kept doing
I mostly just kept switching lobbies, so I didn't really get to those different modes all that often.
Oh, I see. Why did you keep switching lobbies?
Well, since I wanted to play so quickly, if there was a certain amount of time it was taking too long to pair me up with other people, I dropped and then just switched. Or if the lobby seemed like it was too small and I didn't want to fight the same people over and over, I just switched lobbies.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
I mean, it's not something I really thought about too much, so...
Okay. All right, so the main first thing, I mean, we already talked about the main battle modes, the 1-on-1 and the 2-on-2, those were still here. Did you get to try out Twintel?
No. I figured so many other people were going to try Twintel, and I kind of wanted to stay away from the extra characters so that there would still be some new content for me to try out once the full game is released.
Okay. Yeah, she's just another one. She was interesting, but just her floaty ability, which kind of puts her in a similar world as Ribbon Girl, I guess.
Yeah,
because she's very aerial, but with a different weapon setup. And I guess I just didn't quite grasp, because I didn't remember what her umbrella does. I guess it's kind of a shieldy type weapon, but it doesn't do the same thing as Helix is, where it stays still and can be positioned in weird ways. But yeah, I mean, I've tried her out a little bit, and then I just kept getting drawn back into Helix, because I feel like I have to try to learn him.
It's just so interesting how your opinion on him went into a complete 180.
No, I still think he's weird, and I hate him. But
well, I'm talking about
him.
The interest level of the character. You seem like, oh, I'm done. I am dismissing this character because he's so weird.
I'm intrigued. Yeah. I freaked out. I feel like I have to understand his potential, because he is the most unusual strategy options of all.
I just like Twintel's, adds a bit of diversity to the cast of arms, and I do like that her abilities are kind of reminiscent to Bayonetta.
Yes, with the hair, yes.
With the hair and the witch time, slowdown ability, it's kind of similar,
yeah.
so, yeah.
All right, so did you get to play any rounds of the Hoops game?
I played a couple, yeah.
Okay, so what did you think? I found it not to be that interesting or that different from almost like a regular fight. It just felt like a fight where throws score a point, and I guess eventually beating the opponent enough consistently scores you a point. Because if you throw them, you just always put them in the hoop. And if you beat them up enough that they're on the floor, I think I got some sort of thing where they picked them up and threw them in a hoop also.
I actually kind of liked hoops a little better than V-ball. Mostly because, you're right, it is a little bit more reminiscent to the traditional arms fighting style. But whenever I was able to actually land a grab to slam dunk my opponent, that did feel satisfying to me. It didn't feel as satisfying doing the V-ball stuff than hoops.
I will say that I just felt that the V-ball at least felt like more of a different...
Like a different mode?
Yeah. It didn't feel like I'm just fighting the other player. I feel like, even though I wasn't crazy about that either, so I really don't have a dog in this fight since I feel like both of them are things I'm not going to mess with too much. But I did feel like, at least volleyball mode did feel like I was doing something different than trying to punch my opponent.
Right. Honestly, I expect these extra modes to not be explored that often.
Yeah.
Now, how many times do people play the extra modes in Smash? It's going to be kind of the same thing here.
There was also that target mode we got to try out. That was interesting because I learned how badly a poor weapon choice can leave you in some of these games.
Well, especially in the target mode, I really feel like certain weapons are beneficial for that mode over others.
I was with some very short, slow weapons, short-range weapons that were not even able to reach the other side, really.
Yeah, exactly.
They just were not that useful in that, and but it did remind me how important it was to choose the right weapon for your opponent, because I did realize that you first get to see the character you're playing. So when you see who your opponent is, you have that chance to adapt your weapon combo for that character. So if you're like, oh, I'm going up against Ribbon Girl, I might need the homing fist because she jumps around and she is hard to hit. And I don't need a big punch. I just need something that can get to her as she dances around the sky.
Right, exactly. And that's part of the metagame of this game and why there's a lot of potential behind the competitive aspects of it.
And the final other new mode we got to try out was Headlock, and this was surprisingly a co-op mode.
I think I felt like I expected something like this, but I didn't expect us to have this mode available in the test punch itself.
Right. I did find it interesting. It is the kind of thing I could see as a good change of pace, because sometimes you just don't want to have the pressure of, am I going to win or am I going to lose against this other person? It's just, all right, we're all having fun together and we're all going to win or lose as together. A team. Yeah. And you fight that giant, or usually it's this whatever tiki head attached to some random character, and it has 6 arms, and 3 of them are one weapon and 3 of them are another weapon, or is it 8 arms? Something like that, some crazy number. And it just punches everywhere. It has a ton of hit points, and there is a lot of I think there's a lot of potential for teamwork and timing things together. Right,
and honestly, I enjoy this mode as a 3-player game than the 1v1v1.
Mm-hmm.
I
agree.
Yeah, this doesn't have the king-making situation inherently because it's a full co-op game. And if a player is just inherently not as good as you are, it's something that you can play together without it being a complete steamroll.
Yeah, and what I think I noticed here was it had different levels of difficulty.
Right.
What I'm going to postulate is possible in the game. See, since the only competitive aspect of it is in, let's say, a lobby where winning means you're going to get more points in the room as opposed to someone who doesn't beat it. If you're in a party or if you're in a team of players that have lots of high point values, the level of the enemy may go up. Because I know sometimes he was level 3, sometimes he was like level 5, and I wonder if that's tied to how many points the team has. So if it's all strong players, well, now they have a harder headlock to beat that they have to really up their game. And if it's some lower level players, all right, they can ease it down a little bit for them.
Right. If you were a game designer, that scaling system would make sense. And I'm hoping that that's actually how it's implemented in the game.
That would be my, I have no backing other than just a gut instinct and a designer desire for that.
Yeah. Right. And I honestly, considering everything that we've experienced over these past 2 test punches, I am good to go with this game. I'm ready for the full game to come out and for us to actually have community events around it.
Yes, sounds awesome. But yes, that's not too far off, so we'll just move on. We've talked about ARMS for quite a bit, and yeah, we should just leave it be at that and move on to a couple other things I did get to play this week. The first of which is Binding of Isaac. I went back again and played another of the classic or launch titles that we never really got around to. I haven't gotten around to Just Dance, I think, still. That's the only one I haven't really touched.
Yeah, of course.
But Binding of Isaac, do you have any familiarity with this series?
Yes, I do. I've seen the screenshots of it, and I know it's generally described in the same breath as original top-down Zelda games. So
okay.
I feel like it might be in that genre.
I would prefer... I think the very first thing that you should describe this game as, cute horror. It's really gross and bloody, and you have to... That should be the very first thing people like not necessarily in a bad way.
Yeah, they've chosen an aesthetic style and a mood for their game, and they've really ran with it.
Like, I fought a boss that was a giant piece of poo who makes fart noises as he chases you, and poop splatters around the room as you fight him, and you and slowly it just becomes a big mess of blood and poo everywhere. Now that I've said that, I will tell people who are listening to this that you might want to consider this aspect of the game before you play it, because I have a lot worse things and a lot grosser things than the poo fight to describe in it, but I probably can't even describe some of the things that I've done in this game that are just part of what happens in it.
Right. It's pretty graphic.
Cartoony, but
it's cartoony.
Graphic, yeah.
It's cartoony. It's explicit what's going on.
Uh-huh.
They don't hide it or censor it in any real way. But describing the gameplay itself, I feel like it seems reminiscent to Zelda.
I would describe the gameplay as kind of a rogue-like, what would you call it, like twin-stick shooter.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Because you go through its randomly generated levels, you're this little crying boy who shoots tears at things, and you find power-ups. You have to... Most rooms you go into don't let you out unless you kill everything in it. And there's lots of traps. Even on the hard mode, though, I haven't felt that the game was too unfair, because the controls feel pretty tight. Shooting is weird, because it's not like you shoot in a straight line. Your tears all arc in almost random directions. So you really... it can be frustrating when you're like shooting at the same thing like 20 times and only one of your tears happen to arc into it. Yeah, and there's lots of mysteries in it. Little things that the designer likes to hide. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing sometimes. Sometimes there's like a donation box next to just some boy who's sitting there with a dried out face and he's just like wobbling in the corner. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll give him a couple of my gold coins. And then you walk away and nothing happens. And I don't know if something's going to happen. I'm sure if I hit 100 or something, I'll get something, I don't know, or unlock something in the game.
I know The Binding of Isaac has a pretty loyal fan base that really likes to dig into these types of little quirks and Easter eggs.
Yeah.
So these types of quirkiness is really part of what sells this game.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely could see. I almost feel like it's the designers were going for a slight Jacob's Ladder kind of appeal to it, in that there's a lot of symbolism. Like, especially if you're into biblical stories, I mean, half of the game is referencing Bible verse. I mean, the characters, Binding of Isaac is a Bible reference right there. Other characters you can unlock include Judas and Lazarus and Eve, and the main story actually is just almost a literal description of this of Old Testament tale where you're just a boy and your mom, and your mom is like a super Christian woman who one day hears God's voice, and he tells her to go and prove your loyalty to me by killing your son. And she's like, okay, I guess I'll do that. And Isaac's like, oh no, I gotta get away. And he runs into some hole that takes him into this hellish place that you have to fight your way through.
Right. It's definitely not preachy. It's not supposed to proselytize anything, but
if anything, I think it might be a knock. It might be an anti. I haven't played enough to really get the true message, but the direction I feel almost is that this would be a anti-religion
maybe perhaps a satire.
Yeah, maybe a satire. If that's something that you don't like, then yeah, that's definitely a reason not to play this game, if that was something. So far, just gameplay-wise, it is a solid game of action, and with lots of... Even the bosses you fight are just randomly picked for each stage, so it does have a lot of variety every time, and you don't know what to expect. I don't know how long I would enjoy this yet. I really have to see how much longevity. I mean, you mentioned those hardcore fans who buy every version of this game, though. And I'm not sure I see that yet as to what appeal it has for such a long time devotion. But maybe after I play it for a week or two, I'll understand, or at least see why that's so much of a thing in it.
This type of game really it really resonates with a certain type of people that love this type of aesthetic.
Yeah, that's really creepy, cartoony thing.
It really reminds me of those Jonan Vasquez comics and cartoons. Mm-hmm. He's the one who made Invader Zim. If that's
okay.
That's his most well-known and mainstream work. But he always delves into the type of grotesque but cartoony aesthetic, and it seems like this is up those fans' alleys. It's interesting because this game has been really released and re-released so many times. I feel like the story is pretty out there, and so hearing the perspective of someone who hasn't delved into this franchise yet, I wanted to hear what you think about the story and how it ended.
I think it'd be hilarious if I come out of this, and let's say I do feel like, nope, this entire game's story is a attack on established religion, and then you find out, no, actually, well, the popular belief is that it is an endorsement of Catholicism and its belief system, or any religion. I'm like, oh, I guess I didn't see the same message or interpret it the same way as them, you know.
Right.
So we'll see.
I want to see how it ends up, how you end up finding it in the very end.
Also, I got to play a classic. I got to play Ultra Street Fighter 2 at our last Switch Fest.
Okay, so you actually got to play it multiplayer with people locally.
Yes. I played this game. I actually probably played the entire night.
Gotcha.
I did pick it up, and you know, Street Fighter is the classic for a reason. It is such a easy game to pick up and to just I mean, I only played it. I tried to actually just stick to one character for the night. I really just said, I'm going to play as Ken tonight. And I'm going to try to, like, just get used to, because we were mostly playing with Share the Joy mode. And trying to get the controls down and learn how to do the thing. It did help. Someone brought the cases for Sharing the Joy, like little individual hand controllers for each, like, little
Joy-Con?
Yeah, for each Joy-Con. Just like each one became a little more substantial controller with these little inserts he had for them.
Yeah.
And it made a big difference, actually. And I was able to pull off moves pretty reliably. I'm not crazy. I mean, if I was going to be playing a little more seriously, I would have actually changed the buttons around. But having the buttons with, like, strong punch and strong kick as the LNR is fine. I probably would have moved those to X or
face
Y.
Buttons?
Yeah, I would have moved those to face buttons because it's really important to get, like, the supers off with those. It's kind of hard to do a super with an L or an R button press.
Yeah, right. But overall, how did the game feel to you, considering it's such an iconic entry in the fighting game genre?
It really brought me back to summers ago, 10, 15 years ago, when I would play this at my friend's house daily. He was a big fighting game guy, and I just was I'm going to, jump kick you to death and punch. But he was big into actually, like, learning the combos, learning those tricks about how to jump at the opponent so, you can hit him at a place where he can't block and all that kind of stuff. And back then, I was the person who I hate now, who would be like, oh, cheap tactics, you got me in the corner, or blah, 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 and that is just me complaining that you learned the game and I didn't, which is how I interpret 9 out of 10 times if someone cries this character or this move is cheap, 9 out of 10 times I interpret that to mean you learned the game and I didn't and I don't want to.
You're not entirely wrong about that.
Right.
So,
but there are such things as cheap, like Evil Ryu and Violent Ken. Some people do say are pretty OP.
Right, but they're supposed to be learning characters either way. So, but it's I want to hear your perspective regarding how you feel Street Fighter 2 holds up to all the Neo Geo fighting games that you were playing for a much cheaper price.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, I do feel that while I do think this was a slightly stronger game, the character variety in Street Fighter is in Street Fighter 2 here is really great because they have a lot of the extended cast like T-Hawk and Cammy, and they do offer a lot of playstyles that are pretty easy to approach. Despite all the advantages it has there, I don't think it's $34 more advantage.
Right, I can see that.
If I plan to play it online a lot, I'd be a little more tempted, maybe at $30, I feel like. But I think I'm personally the kind of person who the local multiplayer is the thing. And I do play, before Street Fighter came there, I was playing Samurai Showdown at the Switch Fests, and that was the fighting game, and it was still fun. I think the main thing about Street Fighter is it is the Magic the Gathering of fighting games. Everybody knows how to play it. You can sit it down and I always used to play Chun-Li. I think I remember her moves, and they could just pick it up and they remember that. They don't have to learn a new character. Right, yeah.
Right. It's essentially not a new language that people have to figure out when a new game comes out. It's something that's been in a lot of people's childhoods, so there's a nostalgia factor that really comes into play as well.
That is the strongest benefit Street Fighter 2 has. Just that everybody's touched it, and even if they don't, there's Ryu and Ken just to teach you the basics of all fighting games. And it works. And I forgot that, I've been playing so many really modern fighters, at least like on Vita and stuff in the not too distant past, that I forgot that combos super combos are a relatively recent development in fighting games. That games like Blaze Blue are the modern day direction of fighting games, at least like J fighting games, I guess you would call them.
Right.
And those always attracted me because they're just so pretty. They have such great anime graphics and crazy CGI effects going on that I just wanted to play them. but all I ever did when I played BlazBlue was memorize combos.
Right. And when it comes to something like Street Fighter 2, even though it does have its combos,
yes,
and you can really benefit from having those combos become instinctual.
Yes.
It really still brings the fundamentals of the fighting game genre into play, and there's a bigger focus on the situational positioning.
Yeah, and the combos make sense. Like I was just doing them by second nature, or maybe I just remember them from playing a long time ago. But I would just remember that, oh yeah, when I hit him with this, like I followed up with a sweep, and that just lets me do a lot more damage by following up with these one or two little extra hits that I know I can go into from there. And it's never too complicated. It just kind of felt natural and right for the situation.
Right. It's not something that you have to incredibly ingrain into your muscle memory.
Yeah, right, basically. Yeah. But yeah, so, and pulling off the moves, I do have to say, pulling off the specials were not as hard as I expected in Share the Joy mode.
Okay.
There were people who brought down their pro controllers. It was funny, like every so often, let's say I won 2 or 3 matches, the other person would be like, I'm getting my pro controller out. And they would just like, be annoyed at that. And you know what? It is notably easier with a pro controller or even a full Joy-Con controller. I did try it out with a pro, and I could totally see why people would
prefer it.
Yeah. I could definitely see someone taking fighting games seriously will want to have a pro controller on their hands. Okay. I understand it now. I feel it. But at the same time, I'm not so serious that I feel it's necessary, and I got by pretty well just sharing the joy.
Which is a reassuring experience, because the appeal of the Switch is the fact that you can get those multiplayer experiences on the fly. Mm-hmm. And Street Fighter 2 is really the fighting game that you can play on the fly and have other people pick up pretty quickly.
I might want to pick up those little controller inserts. Those are... or I might want to get that NES Bluetooth controller thingy.
I would feel like the Bluetooth controller would be more justified to purchase because it has more use cases.
Yes,
and if you're going to be bringing Street Fighter around, I feel like carrying around those big Joy-Con inserts would be a bit unwieldy.
They're pretty small, actually. They're not too bad.
Well, I mean, it's just an extra thing to carry around.
It's true. It is an extra thing. Yes. I just want another excuse to buy an 8-bit dough.
Yeah. No, I think we should... I think I want one, too. And I think we should totally get it.
All right. I do want to also just give a quick mention, an honorable mention to the night, to an accessory that really stands out, no pun intended, in my Switch Festness or any kind of social gathering of gaming. I have that Orsley Switch stand to prop up the Switch a few inches higher and like let it face people a little more.
Okay.
It's a simple little device. It's just it folds down flat, and then it just kind of props up and becomes a little stand to prop your Switch on, and it just elevates it like that 4 or 5 inches and helps it aim towards your face a little more. It does make a huge difference, I feel, from just having the Switch propped up on its own little tripod thing there and no real control over the angle it has.
Right.
Just having the angle control is a huge advantage for this thing.
It definitely helps bring the Switch closer to eye level when you prop it up on a table.
Yes.
And that level of control is really beneficial for those types of experiences. And I feel like the Orsley Switch stand's price is actually really good for what value it's offering.
Yeah, it's about $10.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty worth it. Yeah, it's totally worth it, especially if you ever plan on playing it in any kind of like social gathering, or especially if you have more than 2 people playing one game, you're going to want something like this to help everybody see it better.
Right, exactly.
So just my quick honorable mention to that. But we did get in our possession one other little device that I think is just worth us mentioning and maybe asking the viewers for some feedback on. We were contacted by a company called TotalMount, and they make various devices to mount your consoles around, your house or on the walls and such like that. And they gave us these mounts to put the Switches or put your entire Switch dock attached to a wall. And they actually wanted us to, give it a test out, maybe, give you guys a link to pick them up and if you're interested in them. But we weren't able to, either one of us, actually try these out, were we?
No, we weren't. The total mounts for the Nintendo Switch have a very, very specific use case.
Yeah.
Since total mounts products are generally meant to be attached to a wall, this product is supposed to be paired with another wall-mounted television. We don't currently have that set up in our own households, but we're trying to replicate the environment that this would work out. But as of right now, it's not really something that's on our radar for purchase.
I mean, even more than that, I'd be willing to try it out on the wall if I didn't have to drill these screws into my wall.
Right.
That's the main thing. Like,
there is a requirement to drill this total mount onto a wall, and from there you would place the actual Switch dock on the mount so that it would be hanging on the wall next to your TV. Your mounted TV, or in a position that's convenient for you. We're a little hesitant to drill holes into our walls, but in some households, this type of setup is really valuable, and you can't really find Nintendo Switch-specific mount anywhere else anyway, so...
Yeah. I do think it looks cool. Like, it has this cool little setup. It even has little hooks to put your Joy-Con halves on and hang them from the sides if you want. It has a level, built into it, so if you're putting it on the wall, you could make sure it's perfectly level like that. But, yeah, at the same time, I don't want to drill holes in my wall for it, and I saw that some of their other products had other innovative little solutions for smaller devices, though. Like Apple TV one, they had just kind of hooked into the vents on your TV, and it just kind of did that. Some things have more gluey solutions, but I don't
adhesives.
But I don't think anyone wants to really trust adhesives to their, keeping their Switch up in the air.
Right, especially considering the fact that you'll be interacting directly with the console more often than with other consoles. This is something that you would want to be bolted onto your wall instead of just attached with some sort of adhesive.
Right. So I do want to ask the listeners, though, out there, if any of them have a setup where they think something like this that actually mounts it to their wall would be useful. And if you are interested in that, one, like I said, let us know. Send us an email. Maybe give us a picture of your setup, because I'd be very interested to see where this is useful. And B, if you are interested in picking one of these up, we will put a link in the show notes if you want to grab one. And there's actually a promo code that they've set us up with. If you use the code TOTALTEN, one word, and that's spelled out, TOTALTEN, they will give us credit, and they have a little partnership deal with us and also give you a $10 discount off the price of the unit itself there. So if you're interested in it, check that out, and definitely let me see how it looks or how your situation is made for something like this. I do think this is something that's probably only going to be useful to maybe 5% of our listeners, maybe. So don't just go and pick this up if just because I mentioned it here and you just think it might be cool to have on your wall. Definitely consider where your Switch is now, because I've even tried to find people at work who would maybe use this so I could take pictures of it actually installed someplace, and everyone kind of had the same reaction. No, I do not really have a place. It'd be inconvenient for me in my setup, and it would also be just annoying to drill holes in my wall. Right.
And I definitely want to set the precedent where, yes, this is definitely, in a way, a partnership with the company for us to promote this product. But regardless of that, we want to be honest with you guys and give you our truly unbiased opinions on this product. I do want to quickly say the build quality of this product is actually quite good.
Yes.
And I have a couple of colleagues that have total mount products for other devices, and they work out really well. So This product, so far, as we can tell, it's a good product, but there's a very specific use case that it would apply to. And
right.
You guys should definitely consider that when purchasing this product.
Even little things like the back of it is designed to be used with the vent and still facilitate heat ventilation on the Switch so that it's not just building up inside that case there. Yeah. And it looks cool. I think it does have a cool look to it as well.
Yeah, exactly. There is definite attention to detail for the Switch console here. And if we had the use case for it, we definitely would want to push this further. So let us know what you think.
Right. So, all right. So that's everything we've gotten our hands on for this week. So let's go into the news rundown and chat about the big announcements that came.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So the news rundown, let's just get out there. The very first big thing, right after our show, something huge was announced. NBA Playgrounds is going to have Shaq Fu given away to all Switch owners who early adopters. Yes, that's the thing.
Oh,
Shaq
man.
Fu for Nintendo Switch.
Shaq Fu, I'm so excited. Such a good game. Now, obviously, there was a bit of a bigger announcement than NBA Playgrounds, but it's a good thing. I guess we could start here.
Well, I'll just
go briefly go over this groundbreaking news story, Casey.
Well, I just mentioned that we were going to have a big announcement from Saber about NBA Playgrounds. We were thinking it's the update, but no, they were just kind of saying, hey, thanks for waiting so long for the update that'll have online play, but to make it up to you, we're going to give early adopters a free copy of Shaq Fu when it comes out for Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Though they did also say that this Thursday, so the day we're posting this show, will be an announcement for the online features, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's an announcement hinting at another announcement, so
yes.
Yay!
So it's possible it'll come out. The online update will be out when we post this show, but we'll have to follow that up. But no, the real big one was the details on the online service for the Nintendo Switch.
Okay, yeah, okay. It's arguable whether this is the biggest one, but
no. But this happened
we'll go there.
right after we posted, and I was just so frustrated that we couldn't talk about it sooner.
Yeah, right at the end of the episode, they announced quite a few details confirming the price and kind of what's going on with online.
Yeah,
speaking.
So let's just go down all the things that are listed and updated on the website here. I guess one of the first and foremost thing is just they finally clarified the price of it. And
right. It's going to be $20 per year or
yes.
$2 a month.
If you buy a full year at one time. You can, if you for some reason do not think you'll be using it for the full year. You can pay, I believe, $4 if you want to go month to month. But
right.
Yeah, at that point, you might as well just, $20 for the whole year. You're getting it down to, less than $2 a month for all the services that we're going to go over here as well.
Which is actually a really significant price difference to its competitors. Mm-hmm. PSN and Xbox Live just recently increased the prices of their online services to about $60 a year. So
yeah.
This is a really big difference now, and I'm hoping it'll be an easier pill to swallow for people.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people, especially I think Nintendo fans specifically, were not necessarily in the mindset of paying for online services like this, at least for a video game console. And this is definitely a good way to ease them into it. And you're going to get a lot, it sounds like, even for that money. I mean, I don't need necessarily as complete and crazy robust a service as the $60 ones on Microsoft. I mean, maybe I don't even know like what kind of things they offer. I know PlayStation Plus. That's about all I know of the online services. I don't really.
Right.
I mean, other than friends lists and I don't know, like what matchmaking.
It's friends lists, online lobbies, voice chats. Those are mostly the big features. The thing that benefits people is the server infrastructure they're able to provide the developers.
Okay.
Which is what they use to justify the larger price point. And Xbox Live Gold giving away the small games and PlayStation Plus giving away the small games is an added bonus to make it easier for people to accept that larger price point.
Okay.
The fact that Nintendo is kind of offering the same thing at such a hugely discounted price is impressive, to say the least.
That really shakes up, I think, how everyone's going to have to be thinking about their online services in the future when they compare what you get for each. Maybe even if Nintendo's isn't as robust at a third of the price, it's definitely comparable, it sounds like, from all the things that we're here. I mean, granted, serviceability we'll have to see when we actually... Well, then again, we've been using it for I keep forgetting that we've been using this for several months already.
Yeah, and there haven't been any wide sweeping connectivity complaints, so I think we're on the right track when it comes to online play for the Nintendo Switch. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's really good that they set that price lower, just so that there won't be quite as much comparison between Nintendo services and PlayStation and Xbox Live. So
True.
They're able to segment themselves, and if there are any Nintendo online shortcomings, they're able to fall back on the fact that it's just so much cheaper compared to everyone else.
Yeah. And it's also the fact that it still will be free until 2018. So that trial period is going to last for the rest of this whole year here.
Yeah, exactly.
But coming in 2018, we will get one of the first new features added will be the online lobby and voice chat.
Yep, so they're going to utilize an online lobby system and voice chat through a dedicated smart device app, which is a little bit controversial in the Nintendo community.
This is going to be the first time they fall back on their, hey, it's the $20 a month thing, is that you will need this app, and a free limited version of it will be available this summer, so you can try it out and see. Again, you know what? You're going to get to try this all out before you have to pay anything. So you can see what it's like in the summer, and if you're at that point like, you know what, this is, stupid, I don't need this, I don't need to pay for this sort of thing, you can either not get it, or if you're still one of those people who listens that doesn't have a Switch, this could be one of those factors that determines your purchase of it or not.
Right, and this type of setup requires some sort of interesting headset configuration, which might be a little bit bulky to take with you on the go, but it's going to be interesting to see how this is all implemented together.
Now, yeah, that whole thing with the headsets. I mean,
right.
Do you think I wouldn't be able to just use like my Bluetooth headphones that I have now and use that microphone and set up?
I wouldn't be able to say for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're locking down.
Yeah.
And tunneling through properly.
All right, so that'll be a big thing to look forward to trying out when this app, the trial app, comes out in 2017.
Now, an interesting offering that they're giving is the fact that subscribers will get to download a compilation of classic titles with added online play.
Yes.
Such as Super Mario Bros. 3 Balloon Fight and Dr. Mario.
Right. Now, this sounds a little like what we were saying, that they needed kind of like a PlayStation Plus thing where, there'd be certain games that you could play every month, though they will rotate every month. Having a wide selection like this does sound good, especially I'm very intrigued by what they mean by added online play.
Right. Does that specify online multiplayer for these old games? If so, check mark for the JV column, because this is kind of virtual console online play that I referred to last episode.
Exactly. Right. I was just thinking about that. I was saying, ooh, maybe JV's Dream prediction did come true from last episode. Though the wording is a little vague, it could end up being what we saw with the Neo Geo Classics that just added scoreboards, maybe challenges, downloadable little extras here and there, just not necessarily actual live multiplayer.
Honestly, considering just the low price point of Nintendo Online, I really did not expect them to even provide us with any sort of gameplay additions or gameplay accessibility like this.
Yeah.
Considering I'm used to spending about $60 for a console online service, this is a really quite a bit of value for the price point.
Yeah. And you know what? Honestly, any of those really classic games like this, I don't play them that often. I kind of like the idea of having 3
that cycle out.
Yeah, that just kind of cycle in and out, that are just part of the subscription I'm paying for anyway. And I'm like, ooh, Mario 3's this month. I should try and beat that before the month is over, and I might actually get around to doing it. Or, oh, it's Balloon Fight. Everyone loves Balloon Fight for like a week, and then you kind of get tired of it, and you don't need to play it for a year.
I think this is a good plan, and I wonder if this type of setup might be a replacement for Virtual Console in the future.
Well, they did address that exactly today, and they specifically said that this is not a replacement for or anything in lieu of the Virtual Console. That is something totally separate that will be talked about at a later time.
Yeah, exactly. E3?
Yeah, I really I do hope so. When I saw this originally, I was like, oh, is that something... Like, we both figured that would be either an E3 thing or its own direct, but we both said it would probably be a topic at E3. And seeing this announced last Thursday made me think, like, oh, did they decide to, just drop Virtual Console on us also and just beat us to our prediction?
Yeah, I feel like this is still going to get mentioned in E3, and it's a really good opportunity for them to detail the service to people who aren't necessarily paying attention to these outside of E3 announcements. So we can still be correct. This could still be brought up in E3, but
I think that yes, they'll definitely go into a little bit more.
Yeah, but let's move on to the actual announcements that people want to talk about, Casey.
Okay. The most recent, exciting, and new thing that... Well, here's the thing. So we had a Pokemon Direct Monday, or Tuesday, rather. And I was really, really hyped building up to this.
Okay,
and
yeah.
In a way that I usually don't get. We had big dreams. We were both talking about the next generation games of Pokemon, possibly Pokken coming out, and this came out, and there were 3 titles shown off, only one of which was for the Switch.
Right. Pokemon Directs, it was 8 minutes long. They took quite a bit of time to go over the small things that they announced, but I guess we can just go over all the stuff one by one, Casey.
Well, all right. I guess the thing was, though, that I was a little disappointed in this overall. I'm not. So the big reveal was Pokken Tournament DX coming to Nintendo Switch, which is pretty cool.
Pokken Tournament. Yes, it is more than just cool. I literally mentioned it as one of the dream games that I was craving for on the Switch. And the fact that this was announced but even before E3 got me so excited and so pumped.
I think it's pretty cool. I never played it. It's not a fighter that I was particularly drawn to. I just think it's cool. It looks awesome. I'm sure it's a good game. It's just not what I was looking for, but I know that a lot of people are hyped about this, and it is big news for a lot of people.
Right. I guess a bit of a downer was the fact that they also announced Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon for the 3DS.
Right. So not coming to the Switch. I was really disappointed. I was actually really I was sighing with dismay.
Right.
But I do realize in retrospect, my expectations might not have really been appropriate for this, because obviously they're going to make the
secondary game for the generation.
Yeah, the secondary game for the generation on the 3DS, because even if they are working on a Switch main Pokemon game, right? Which I suspect they still are. I don't think this means that that's not being created. I think it is. But they're not going to announce it when they are announcing these games for 3DS. That would just hurt, because if they announce Pokemon Stars for Switch in this Direct, I think that it would do a significant damage to the sales for the 3DS ones, of people just saying, oh, I don't need to get Ultra Sun and Moon. I'll just wait for the new Switch game to come out.
Right. I do agree with that. And honestly, I'm pumped, and that 3DS announcement was a bit of a bummer in the at the downswing of that Direct. Mm-hmm. But coming into the Nintendo Direct, I honestly was not expecting Pokemon Stars so early, and I was primarily expecting Pokken Tournament.
Yes,
it made the most sense overall for it to come out on the Switch with the timeline that we have now. If they just announced Pokken Tournament by itself and didn't hint at Ultra Sun and Moon, I feel like people wouldn't be nearly as disappointed as they are now.
I just think it didn't need to be a Direct. I feel like when you have a Nintendo Direct for something like this, you expect like one home run after another, or something really big. But like a Switch title, a Wii U port, which is a lot of people's complaints, but I don't share those gripes that people say have about these sort of things. A Wii U port, a new game for the 3DS, and then a virtual console game for the 3DS. It doesn't really feel like the caliber of announcements for a dedicated Direct.
Well, it was just an 8-minute Nintendo Direct, so in my opinion, I didn't really expect there to be that much. If it was Pokken Tournaments, I expected them to have a big reveal trailer and then go into the details regarding what's going to be new to the Switch version.
They probably could have played it out more. It was a really good trailer, though.
It was a very good trailer. If they made Pokken Tournament just like an even bigger deal within the Direct, I feel like we would be a lot more satisfied than we are now, because they started with a great announcement with Pokken Tournament, and then they just ended with the bit of a downer that the next Pokemon mainline game is on the 3DS, and that kind of tempered everyone's excitement of the original announcement. It's a little disappointing for me personally, because of course Pokken Tournament's my dream game for the Switch, and I want to be super hyped about it.
No, yeah. Maybe they should have even just shown it in reverse order. Like, lead with the little virtual console game, show off Ultra Sun and Moon, okay, and then make Pokken the big reveal, and maybe even after, like, hey, we're going to do a little trial battle here and show off some of the features, and, do a little more in-depth thing with it.
Right. And honestly, if we start going over all the Pokken Tournament stuff, there's a lot of cool stuff coming to the game.
Yes, it does look cool. The biggest thing, I think, for me looking at it, was that they managed to somehow adapt the controls to share the Joy mode. Which
exactly.
Something must have to give, or there has to be some trickery there, because the game takes more buttons than one Joy-Con has.
Not really. Yeah. The controls you need are directional buttons, X, Y, A, B, the front-facing buttons, and one left and one right button. Left and right triggers. The actual Hori Pokken Tournament controller has less inputs than even the Pro controller itself. So the game has simple inputs, and the Joy-Con are actually quite perfect for this game, since it only has one left and one right trigger, just like in the official Hori controller.
Interesting.
Yes. So what's even better for me regarding Pokken Tournament is the fact that, one, it has split-screen co-op with it now.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yes. There was no split screen in the Wii U version. One person had to be stuck playing on the gamepad, the other person was stuck playing on the TV, and it was running in a really slow 30 frames per second. If you wanted to play properly with multiplayer, you had to actually link two Wii U's together with an Ethernet cable onto two separate monitors, and that was just such a hassle to do.
Now, wait, did you say co-op mode or did you mean versus mode?
Versus mode, sorry.
Okay.
I meant local mode. Local multiplayer, you had to have separate screens. And now they're supporting split screen in order to allow for sharing the joy.
That's interesting. So this game, the way the fights happen, you have to have a split screen. You can't just have one screen depicting both fighters,
Right.
like most fighting games do.
Yeah, because the perspective is completely third person. So you're behind your character during field mode. So you can't really have that positioning, or else it wouldn't really be a balanced perspective.
Okay.
Now, what's even better is the fact that it does have local wireless multiplayer without any requirement of that connectivity or bringing a second TV in. That's why this game is perfect for the Switch experience.
And they even added one new fighter, at least one new fighter for the Switch version.
Well, they have 4 fighters that are only released on the arcade version. They had Scissor, Empoleon, Darkrai, and Krogunk.
Okay.
Those have never been released in the Wii U version, and now they're adding brand new Decidueye into the Switch version that hasn't been out before.
So that's 5 fighters who weren't in the Wii U version that are in the Switch version.
That's correct.
Okay.
Which is a pretty good amount. It goes from 16 to 21 fighters, which is a really good amount for this type of game.
Very cool. And it also will use Amiibo ability. And what a lot of people are very happy about is that the Wii U controller that was specifically released for this game will be compatible with the Switch version.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just cool that this type of stuff is still going to be carried over to the Switch version.
Yeah.
Obviously, you aren't going to be able to use it in handheld mode, but during docked mode, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Some people were suggesting a pack-in or with the Hori controller, as we said that we saw that listing for it briefly on some site. That would, I'm interested in that Hori controller too. I'm interested in that joystick. I don't think I would necessarily buy it on its own, since I'm not that much of a fighter, but I would consider it if it was a good price packaged in with Pokken Tournament.
Yeah, and I cannot express how excited I am for this game. I will be pushing this in the Discord chat a lot. There were a lot of people in the chat room that was just as excited as me, so if this is something that you're interested in, or if you missed out on the Wii U version, then please come join us in this when this game comes out. It's gonna be great.
Who's your character of choice so far?
I've always been. I was a big fan of Garchomp in the original Wii U version, but you know me. I'm a huge Steel-type Pokemon fan.
Okay.
So I'm maining Scissor right from the get-go.
Gotcha. And if anyone is interested in getting their hands on this and they're going to E3, it will be playable there. And there's going to actually even be a invitational tournament there, June 14th. And the Treehouse team will probably be doing the kind of hands-on gaming that we were saying that they should have had at the Direct. They'll be doing that over there.
Right. The Pokken Tournament DX Invitational is going to be at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday, June 14th, and I really implore you guys to check out this game. It's really fun to watch in a competitive level, so do it.
All right,
do it.
I will check that out, because I am interested to see how this goes, since fighting games... And this is a question we'll probably address more depth in the community pulse, because it is brought up a lot, but it does seem to be a one competitive game after another coming out on the Switch lately. And so this sort of thing, I think we should just kind of go with the flow and embrace the competitiveness of games like this and get into
It's
it.
an interesting mindset switch for Nintendo, considering how they wanted to stray from competitive style games for such a long time.
Yeah. Speaking of their E3 presence, we did get the exact timing of their showcase at E3 on Tuesday, June 13th. They will be having their show, their main, what do they call it?
Spotlight?
Yes, their Spotlight. That will be at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, and Wednesday and Thursday will start at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And so we'll probably be tuning in around then if anyone wants to, start paying attention to Twitter and specifically my tweets those days.
Quick plug.
Yep. So we also got other competitive stuff going on. Splatoon 2 has its own Pro Controller they showed off.
Yep.
It's basically the same thing with a little, neon red and green grips on the bottom left and right there.
It looks like ice cream.
It does.
But it looks really cool. A lot of people are saying that they're glad that they held off on purchasing a Pro Controller until this one comes out. And I feel like this is something you guys should definitely pre-order, since I don't expect many runs of this product going out.
Yeah,
So.
that's true. That's true.
They're also releasing a Splatoon 2 headset, which has a very interesting take on how the smartphone app is going to integrate with the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
So, if you look at the diagram here, it's a official Splatoon headset for Nintendo Switch. It has the headset itself, but it plugs into a certain dongle, which connects one cable to your smartphone's headphone jack and one cable to the Nintendo Switch's headphone jack, which means they're tunneling both the audio from the smartphone and the Nintendo Switch into your headset, which is a interesting way to handle voice chat, I think.
It's a bit of a mess, it kind of looks like. I'm a little... I feel like I won't be doing this on the go that much.
Right. I don't think you'll be playing online multiplayer on the go that much anyway.
Okay,
And this seems like a lot of wires and a lot of setup, but I don't see how they would really be able to do this type of setup otherwise.
The only other way I could see it working that it might raise the price a little bit is if instead of plugging the headphones into the little jack thing there, if the jack at least had some sort of Bluetooth connectivity to the headphone, so you don't have to plug it in to this dongle that's then connected to your iPhone and your Switch.
Right. That would be technologically possible, but I wonder how that would increase the price or make the setup experience too difficult for non-technologically savvy people.
Maybe I'll see this in action and it won't look as awkward as this diagram makes it look, but I'm a little skeptical of how this is, it just feels like too much connected to too many things. Like, where am I going to keep my iPhone? Like, do I have to have it now down on a table somewhere, plugged in? Or if my Switch is docked, do I have to place my phone by the Switch? Is it, what if I want to pick it up and use my phone during the game? Is that going to be a mess? I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to figure out how the setup is going to work. Mm-hmm. I am going to get the Splatoon 2 headset because it just looks really cool, and I want to be able to report on how the setup works for you guys. So I'll do my best to pick this up.
Some new games that were announced this week, though. We got to see a first trailer for Bulb Boy, which is coming this summer, which looks like to be a surreal horror puzzle adventure on the eShop. And this kind of has a Binding of Isaac feel to it.
Yeah. Their cutesy horror is really becoming a thing now, isn't it?
It is. It's really
cutesy
weird.
horror.
Yeah, it's like it's still disturbing, but the characters are still cartoony and weird, cute kind of things going on here.
Yeah. Why not?
The End is Nigh, which is by the Binding of Isaac creator, and this looks like Super Meat Boy with maybe another graphic update. It's a little more fluid. You're some weird ball that's jumping around, similar types of stages of infinite ways to die, in a world where you're the last thing on Earth that survived.
Right. And honestly, they're really good at making these styles of games, so...
It looks a little more sprawling, though, let's say, than Meat Boy, where that was more like, here, it's like a one-screen stage a lot, or maybe, a little longer than one screen. This looks like there's a little more level to the survival tracks you have to get through.
Yeah.
Soldma Drop Connect Erase is coming in fall. This is something that was out on the Japanese eShop for a while. I've looked at it. I'm not sure if I understand the gameplay, but it's another drop puzzle kind of game. Kind of reminds me of that one that was on Vita for a while. That puzzle game that had the rhythm. It was just like the red and gold balls you would drop.
I'm a fan of competitive puzzle games, as I'm sure you guys who are listening to the podcast already know. So this is something I'm going to check out because it's in a genre that I like so much.
And it goes a little... I guess it's similar to the Puyo Tetris. It's full of cutesy anime characters that you will be...
Yeah, it's almost very close to the Puyo Tetris art style, so...
Yeah.
It's not out there.
Poi, we got a trailer for this, which is a 3D platformer, looking very similar to a... kind of like a Mario-like, I would call this, basically. Even the way they jump and move kind of looks like it's very Mario-inspired, except you're these, I don't know, airship riding adventures.
Right. It does look like a non-Nintendo licensed take on Super Mario 64.
Yeah, right. And it has a little ukulele kind of look to it, too.
Right. Interesting. If it might be worth checking out.
And for the sportsters out there, they've got we've gotten a trickle of these coming in, but EA has revealed FIFA 18 will be coming September 29th to the Switch. So, while that's not something we ever play, I do know that there is a very sizable and very important sports market that they need to court for any system to be successful, and FIFA is a backbone of that genre.
Right. This is actually a pretty unique situation, though, since it is taking the FIFA 18 title, but it's not using the Frostbite engine, so it might be a bit of a scaled-down version of the game.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out and if there's any backlash for that. But other than that, I'm excited to see EA release these types of mainstream games for the Switch.
Okay, and the new releases for this week. First off, I have to announce that Goner, which was supposed to come out June 1st,
is a goner.
At least for now. It's been delayed until sometime, so we don't know when that's going to be out yet. I will note, even though there is no new information on this, though, the deadline for Pocket Rumble's release is approaching, in that they did say end of spring is their current release window, and it is currently the 9th, and I think spring officially ends the 20th.
Okay. So they have 11 days to go.
Yeah. I mean, if they delay again, I'm not even going to talk about it again, but it's getting close to the newest deadline. I'm not doing the same thing I did last time where I'm going to obsess and look every Tuesday and Thursday and say, is it out yet? No? Okay. The other games we have, though, that are coming out this week, ACA Neo Geo Last Resort, which is looks like a post-apocalyptic or futuristic shoot 'em up, and Shock Troopers Second Squad. So, and that's another Neo Geo classic, and this one is more of a
beat 'em up style Metal Slug game?
Metal Slug kind of game, yeah. And they added a few things. They added like vehicles to this version of it too and stuff. So
you can definitely tell they're double dipping quite a bit in genres when it comes to these Neo Geo games.
Yeah, right. So I didn't even know there were that many Neo Geo games in existence, honestly. There are more released on here than I knew ever were.
Yeah. If you've seen Neo Geo emulators in the past, there's quite a bit for them to tap into.
Also coming out, we have Shantae, Half Genie Hero, coming out today, June 8th, the day this episode will post. We have coming next week, Cars 3, Driven to Win, June 13th, Mighty Gunvolt Burst, June 15th, and to top off this trifecta, we have ARMS hitting June 16th. So it's sure to be a really big week coming up ahead of us here. And if you haven't decided whether you're buying it or not, I mean, I can't see what else you need to make the decision for you other than the 2 weekend-long demos we had of that game. So, looking forward to next episode, which should be very hype. All right, so with that note, let's jump into the community pulse and round up this show.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, so we're going to kick off with a couple of emails that we got this week. And the first of which is from Haven Games, who is the one who's also sending us the NES Classic for our contest.
How cool.
Yes. And he writes, "Hi, expert type folks. I have 6 extra Joy-Con, which I take to parties and other social situations for some epic Bomberman, etc. I recently found that since they jostled in my backpack, the buttons were pressed that turned the Switch on in my carry case. And it had snipper clips open, thankfully nothing more demanding, and it got really hot in there before I found out. I'm worried for my system. Do you have any ideas how I could secure my Joy-Con collection in my bag so that their buttons can, under no circumstances, be pressed?"
That's a great question. I feel like it would really be beneficial to have a dedicated case for your Joy-Con collection. Instead of having them loose within your backpack, if you can get a hard-shelled case for your Joy-Con, that would really help in preventing your Joy-Cons from being pressed accidentally.
Now, I'm just curious. If the Switch is, maybe if it's in sleep mode, it might wake up from the presses, but if you can turn off the Switch, if you hold down the button and you bring up the power down option, and it shouldn't go on unless someone presses that pretty hard button, or am I missing something?
Right.
Here?
No, you're right. Yeah. You're right. It shouldn't be turned on if it was hard shut down with that mode.
So that would be my first suggestion. Is what you said is great, just for protecting your Joy-Con collection there. But the Switch itself, if you're worried about it turning on automatically, all you have to protect is that very, discreet button on the top of it. If you actually don't just put it to sleep mode, put it to actual off mode.
All right, so from Silverstone Condor, what could the Pokemon Company theoretically bring to Switch next after Pokken Tournament DX? Pokemon Stars is pretty much dead in the water by now, so there should be a chance for other Pokemon properties. There's a lot of stuff that can come out for the Switch. I actually think a remake or re-release or new version of Pokemon Snap would be awesome.
That would be really cool and very fitting for this device, honestly.
Yeah, that's why I think it would be really cool.
I have to disagree with what he said, though, about Pokemon Stars being dead in the water. I guarantee you it's whatever. When we say Pokemon Stars, it doesn't have to be the Alolan, sequel, but obviously we're just talking about a mainline Pokemon game for Switch. I'm sure it's being worked on, but the thing is, I'm also very sure that Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon were being worked on before Sun and Moon were released. Those games were being made back then. So they were never going to not release those.
Right.
So since they had to release those, and they're pretty guaranteed money makers, they're not going to announce Pokemon Stars until those games sell. And I believe those go out in November. So maybe January, I think, we might get some teasers telling us about Pokemon Stars on Switch.
Right. And one thing I do want to bring up, if they were going to bring another Pokemon game into the Switch, I feel like something like Pokemon Rumble would be appropriate for the console. It seems like, if you think about it, sharing the joy for a game like Pokemon Rumble would be perfect.
If they make it good, yes. If they make that
Right.
a good game as opposed to that like free-to-play kind of, mindless. Because it did have potential. Like Joey and I played the first one back on the Pallet Tribune, and we liked the concept of a 2-player gauntlet-style game with little Pokemon characters. It's just that they just made
It was very simple.
Yeah, it was, it was like a $4 game on there or something like that. If they made like a $10 game that actually had a fun 4-player, challenging thing where you can all be different classes by being your different Pokemon, I think that's a great idea, actually, JV. I like that one a lot.
Right. If they really expand on the game and add more depth to it, Pokemon Rumble would just fit the control scheme and the overall feel of what the Switch is going for.
I think they could also go for a good. I feel like that the Spinners, the minis game that's on
Pokemon
Duel. I think that could have a really good place on the Switch. Just as almost even just a port of the mobile game, it's a very good touch screen interface. It's it'd be nice to have in that form. It's a good screen for it. I feel like that's something I wouldn't mind playing on there.
There is no hidden information on that game, so I could even imagine it being a tabletop mode game.
Yeah,
where
exactly.
you lay out the screen onto a table and you just play it by sharing the touchscreen.
And actually, that leads me to the next one I wanted to read that is relevant to it because of that. Aldrin Cornejo, he wrote us, two little things. One, is the theme song from ARMS stuck in your head? Do you think it ever won't be?
No.
People loved your song voice from the last episode.
I can't believe you kept that in there, Casey.
Who would ever expect me to take that out?
That's fair.
But yes, I do catch myself humming that quite often, actually.
Yeah.
But he follows up. KC, as a board games fan, JV is equally a board game fan, even if he doesn't talk about it as much as I do.
Right.
But he is. Do you think Nintendo would do well to create their own board/card game and pay homage to their Hanafuda roots? They're the masters of couch co-op play, so why not get into the board games field other than just outsourcing their IP to things like chess and Monopoly? That's what I'm thinking about, actually, with the Pokemon
tabletop mode
Duels game. That would be a great kind of board game for there. But other than that, I think the only game that even comes close to that style thing I see from Nintendo is like the Mario Party series.
I feel like they're probably not going to go into the tabletop game world. If they are, it's likely something that they would integrate with their Nintendo console. So it could be a game that you lay out like a normal board game, but it has some sort of digital connectivity for the Switch to justify that interaction. I don't think they would make something that's just a board or card game.
Yeah, they would have to have something that has like the mini games, something that's more exciting to show off. I don't think they would have faith in a actual like thinky, strategic, or even a simple but strategic like board game where there's not like a mini game of whack-a-mole or something going on every like 10 seconds in it. And have you ever tried actually playing Hanafuda cards, like Koi Koi or anything
I
like
have
that?
not. I have not, actually.
I actually played a few rounds at work, and it is not a great game in my opinion.
Koi Koi!
Koi Koi is okay, but it is no Dominion.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it to be.
Yeah.
But they have delved into tabletop/card game type stuff. I know they released Fire Emblem Zero or Fire Emblem Cypher as a trading card game in Japan. So they have delved into this type of stuff a little bit, but it's not really theirs.
That's the card game, right? The one with the
Yeah,
awesome
that's the trading
art.
card game.
Oh, yeah, it's
Yeah.
a really beautiful card game.
Absolutely. All right, so Stephen Brooks brings up, why so many Wii U ports? why not so many Wii U ports? So in my opinion, I actually have no problem with them bringing over the Wii U ports, just because let's all admit that the Wii U didn't sell that well. There are a lot of really great experiences on the Wii U that people weren't able to delve into because they just didn't have or want the console. Now that the Switch is here with higher demand and a higher projected install base, these old Wii U experiences people missed out on can really shine now.
Yeah. I mean, you got to think about how much money it took to invest in those games that weren't appreciated nearly close to their potential. I mean, those were still great games, but so few people got to play them. It's almost foolish not to be like, all right, it only takes a little bit more investment, a fraction, to bring it up to the Switch, and now an exponential number of people can play it and buy it. The only people who should really be disappointed, who have a right, I think, to be disappointed at least, are those that had a Wii U and own these games already. And I know that's some of you out there, and I feel your pain, but it just makes sense for them to do this simple and cost-effective way to bring out games that are, for all intents and purposes to people like me, 100% new and amazing experiences that we just never got to play before.
Honestly, people really shouldn't complain about this too much right now, because it's natural for new consoles to start their library with ports of previous consoles. The 3DS even started with a port of Street Fighter 4 and a port of Rayman or Ridge Racer. It had, Nintendogs plus Cats, which is essentially just bringing over the Nintendogs from the DS over to the 3DS. So this is a precedent for consoles. It's a good way to transition people from one console to the other, while in a way giving more time for developers to make something new for the system.
Yeah, because they got to learn how to really, even Nintendo's developers, let alone third parties, have to learn how to master the hardware. And a good way a stepping stone is not to make a game from scratch, but adapting a pre-existing game. You learn to walk, and now you kind of feel it out, and now you can really express what you've learned in a fresh game.
Right, exactly. So I feel like while having so many Wii U ports can be a valid complaint, there is a reason for them doing that, and some of the reasons I feel are pretty justified for now.
Robert Andujar wrote, aside from a possible future Smash title, can Nintendo, and specifically the Switch, be considered a serious contender for competitive esports? I mean, my bottom line on this is, the honest to goodness only thing you need to have a real competitive esport isn't even necessarily a good game or competitive, format. You need an audience who will watch it, who will then see the sponsors and buy stuff because they like watching people compete in a thing. So I think all the games are really interesting, good competitive esport material. It's more, though, about the community. If we're interested in watching, then it will be a competitive esport because there'll be an audience for it. And I think we're getting there. I think we're being trained almost by Nintendo to look at it this way and to get hyped for things, and nobody gets hyped like the Nintendo fan base.
Exactly. Yeah, we've definitely talked about this in the past. Mm-hmm. Yeah, esports live and die based on the activity of their community. If you want a specific game to thrive as an esport and there's no activity so far, you really have to take it upon yourself to make the community yourself. You need to host tournaments, just show people how viable a game is on an esport level, showcase how fun it can be to watch that specific game, and it can grow from there. But
and watch esports. If you want it to thrive, pay attention. Like what JV said about watching the Pokken Tournament at E3 this year. Watch that and start to see what makes it an intense game, because we need to be the audience as much as we have to be the people playing in and running these things.
Exactly. You can just look at the Smash community in general. They don't have that much direct support from Nintendo. All of that is grassroots, and it's very impressive how organized they get, even without that much sponsorship backing. Anything can become an esport. We just, as a community, need to rally behind the games and push it forward. So we can top this episode off with Jeff Clark. Would a cartridge-like device be able to be put into the game card slot that you could put a DS game into that would enable backwards compatibility?
So it's kind of like the Super Game Boy was for Game Boy on Super NES.
Right. Now, I can definitely see the desire for backwards compatibility, but all these types of proposed solutions are a little bit infeasible for the current Switch setup. I don't think this is something that Nintendo will do, and I think it's probably not going to happen. And I personally I'm not really looking forward to something like that.
And I think we've said before, whenever we talk about this, is the big problem with anything backwards compatible DS on here is the dual screen nature of the DS.
The control scheme and format is just so different that it'll take a lot of work to translate that over to the Switch, especially if they're expecting full compatibility with backwards compatibility. So it doesn't seem like a feasible venture for them.
Yeah.
Or
even a third party like the Super Game Boy stuff. There's plenty of third party ones, but that's simple to do because a Game Boy Advance game or your Game Boy game still uses just basic button controls and one screen, and then they just kind of, added a border to it. It was pretty easy to make it
translate that over.
Right, without having to do any kind of cool or complicated programming. This would take a lot of functionality of how do I make this one screen into two screens when, does touch need to be? How do it has to know when to just switch the bottom screen display as opposed to everything being changed at once. It's a little more complicated. So
I definitely am with you there. If there was an easy solution, I would love for there to be backwards compatibility, but overall it's just not particularly feasible.
And on that note, it's feasible that we should end this show, isn't it?
At some point, I think we've got to, right?
Yes. But what we also got to do is remind everybody that we do need support to keep this show going. And if you like this show and you want to hear us keep doing it and making more awesome content, the number one place to help us out is to go to patreon.com/theswitchcast. And there's a link to that in the show notes. And this is a site where you go and you pledge your support. If you want, you can say, I want to give you guys $1 a month, or maybe you want to give us $5 a month or more. There's different rewards, and it's what keeps this show going. So if you're just listening and enjoying it, we love you, we thank you, but we really do encourage you at least check out and consider throwing us $1 or so to pay for the servers and help us get all the things we need to make this show come together. Of course, iTunes reviews are huge, so if you're not looking to throw us any money, that's fine, but do please consider, everybody listening to this show right now, go and drop us a 5-star review on iTunes. Gets us up in the rankings, gets us into more ears, and just makes the show more successful, which is really our ultimate goal. And of course, if you ever want to contact me or want to email me a question to read on the show, I'm KC at theswitchcast.com, and this guy over here is JV at theswitchcast.com. And we are both on Twitter. We use @theswitchcast.
We also have an Instagram that Abe so carefully curates and pulls from the community for. It's instagram.com/theswitchcast. We have a Facebook group that's booming and active and awesome as well. So look for us at the SwitchCast podcast community there. We have a SwitchCast friends list repository that you can add yourself to. You can find a lot of friends for your own Switch. We'll include the link into the show notes. And thank you, Essa, for the music, as always.
And until next time,
Switch it up!